Hello and welcome to the Inquisitorial Archive. Today I'm going to tell you about what I've been considering about doing soon, because unfortunately the Black Crusade game I'm currently running, we're getting to a point where it's being difficult for certain players to make it and that kind of thing, and certain players are just going to have to drop out soon enough. I've had players unexpectedly have to drop out already. The story's not quite working well, so we're going to give them a bit of a send-off, do a mission, but we're going to finish their current compact, and that's going to be cool one way or the other. Taking an interesting choice of routes, because as part of it they have to acquire some Loyalist Space Marine power armor, 10 suits, or enough to have 10 suits, because it's part of the compact. But they decided, after assessing various lower rolls, that they wanted to go to Mortis 2, which is particularly, and you have to say particularly dangerous for a Space Hulk. That's a really dangerous situation. They're going there, so they might not even get off that thing. So there might be a TPK, but if they succeed, they could get some ridiculously cool stuff. It's like, okay, they're going that direction. I wasn't necessarily expecting that to be an option, but I thought they were just going to go in some battlefield, identify where space marines were fighting, and possibly ambush or patrol or whatever. I was like, okay, well, you guys want to go that way, you can go that way, that's cool. But I had been thinking about what I was going to do next, and it came down mainly to 3 games. And I do intend to run all 3 of these games at some point. I'm very keen on quite a few of the ideas. The first one is give another crack at Time of War. I'm thinking setting the 30-40s, players being a house unit, probably the Lyrans, because in that stage they're part of the Federated Commonwealth. So you can have somebody from the Fed Sons, you can have somebody from the Lyrans. That's like half the Innisphere already there. And if somebody who really likes the Capellans, you can play somebody from the St. Ives Compact as part of this unit. I could see that, happening. So there's that, and maybe there's somebody from, you've got enough variety there. But as I've said to the players, like, if I do run that one, when I do run that one, just cause when 30-50 rolls around doesn't mean that the clans are necessarily going to invade. Or if they do, I'm not sticking with it. If the clans do invade and the players do really well against them and manage to save this world or whatever, okay, that might draw the attention more to the clans. But if somehow they come up with some daring scheme and manage to kill Ulrich Kerensky in the early days of the clan invasion, well, he's dead. If they legitimately, now he will be ridiculously hard, but if they manage to kill him, or they botch and they actually accidentally kill Adam Steiner, or Hans Davian or something, yeah, that would go badly for people. But it's good or bad, good or wait. If the clans invade, I could just say, well, what would have happened? Let's explore what would happen to the Innisphere if the clans had never invaded. If the Innisphere kept going along, because Comstar is very worried about Federated Commonwealth. The Draconis Combine still recovering from the War 3039. Okay. So that was one of the games I was considering. I haven't quite gone with that one yet, because I've got to go buy Heavy Metal Pro, in my opinion, because by and large, players are going to do mech combat, or maybe vehicles, whatever, but I'm going to feel like I'm going to want to have Heavy Metal Pro there for printing off some of these mechs. Not going to be entirely combat focused, but there's going to be a decent bit of combat in it. Next is, and it's arrived last week, Vampire the Masquerade 20th Anniversary Edition. I'm quite keen on running this. A lot of the players in my games haven't had any experience. I've had only very limited experience personally, but I quite like it. And the idea, going off what Ander suggested one of his videos for Camarilla games, taking it really far back so you have time to go through stuff. And it's not like in the case of 3 months you're the prince now. It's like, no, it's 300 years and you've managed to become the prince. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That could happen. That still, seems very quick to become a prince of a city, unless it's a newly founded city or something catastrophic happened and half the kindred are wiped out. And the interesting thing is, this would be before the Anarch Revolt. This would be before the Camarilla is formed and before the Sabbat is formed. It's like, yeah, these are the early days. If I said in like 1197, because I managed to gain access to the really old Vampire Dark Ages book and the more new one at 1230. So it started 1197. I'm thinking if I do that one, when I do that one, I want more time to think about how to do it, because I haven't run a vampire game before. Many of my players haven't played one. And the idea is that I want time to, occasionally I'll go forward by a couple of years or a couple of decades as time goes by, and then we'll eventually get to the final lights when the players are very well established elders You know, only a few hundred years off actually becoming Methuselah. So like, yeah, they'll be really scary guys. And girls, you know, whatever. And a lot of players are actually quite keen this idea, but I want more time to figure out how to approach this. And I've asked certain people for advice, and they're said they're going to get back to me. They're going to think about, like, I'm going to be setting the game in Ireland, starting off 1197. So the Normans have invaded to conquer lots of Leinster and a fair chunk of the country by this stage. So they'd be coming in with the Normans. Usually be effectively sort of allied with the Normans. They'd be coming in with the, you know, as the new cities are being built, and they're, you know, they brought along with a lot of, you know, architectural science and engineering skills with them. So that developed things, plus the culture's changing. So as I kind of said to the guys, well, mostly I can only see in Ireland that period. There's probably some book somewhere that says, oh, Ireland had these, but I don't know about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the majority of the Cainites, the vampires in Ireland before the Normans had shown up, were going to be primarily Gangrel, and probably a few Toreador being the main ones. The Toreador, I actually kind of like the idea of having them in particular monasteries, encouraging works like the Book of Kells and other, you know, works of illumination and calligraphy. I think it kind of fits a Toreador in that period. I'll be honest, thinking more about the Dark Ages, I don't think normally I'd be interested in playing a Toreador, like in a, you know, in a game set in the Final Nights or whatever. I wouldn't be interested. But because the Dark Ages cultures in Europe, not in other places, it's fine. Like they kind of very European centric a lot of time looking about stuff. But other places, stuff's going on. You know, can be improving, can be getting worse, different things. But culture's screwed in Europe at the time. Like, they're trying to progress it forward. They're bringing new elements, but they're looking back to the good old days of Rome, going, ah, damn it. So I know that the Ventru were involved with the Normans, and, like, you know, some of the players talk about different things. One of the things as well is I'm going to have a certain amount of politics, no matter how little the politics the players want. There's going to be a certain there that's a vampire. It kind of seems to be an integral thing. I wouldn't want to take it out completely. But some of the players, when I mentioned setting a vampire game, one of the guys like, I kind of like vampire, I like the background, but I don't want to have to deal with all the politics. It's like, okay, that's fair enough. Which means, but one of the other players like, oh, like a lot of players are generally like, I don't want to do that much politics stuff. You know, I want to do some, but not just constantly take over the game. Most of us, our experience was of actual Vampire the Masquerade was a LARP somebody ran, where only one player who was playing the Prince had any experience of vampire previously, and the rest of us were all standing there going, wait, I'm the Harpy, he's the Senescal, everyone's a key position in the court. So we didn't understand, we didn't have to get there, we just start as there, and we started off fairly powerful, so it's like, you know, we hadn't achieved it, and we were kind of floundering, completely lost in the politics. You know, even amongst ourselves, like, well, I'm a Harpy, I'm supposed to be important, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and worse, the other players didn't know what the hell the Harpy was supposed to mean, so everyone was kind of walking all over me, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I want to get feedback from people and think more about it, but I definitely have and I have a lot of players who want to do this. One of the players was like, oh yeah, I want to play La Sombra, who was like, okay, that's fine. He's like, but he wanted to really go politics. So I was like, I've got to hammer out with people more about what as a group they want. Because if one guy really wants to go into politics, his character's all built around politics, and everyone's like, I don't really want to do politics. You know, he asks himself, yeah, if it ends up when people have thought enough about it, that, you know, if people don't want to do that much politics, he'll just do a different character. That's cool. Like, he could do La Sombra still, be a bit politics, but I could definitely see it beating the crap out of people with La Sombra. But the one that has won out is a Pathfinder game. I've run Pathfinder before a few times. As you can see, there's notes sticking out of it. I've already started doing character generation with a few people. And I'm going setting this in Taldor, in Golorian, the Inner Sea campaign setting. And I've actually come up with people have come up with a few interesting characters. I'm going to have 6 players. One of the players is somewhat interested, but he doesn't know if he's going to have the time. If he doesn't come in, there's already another person who I didn't invite, but they were like, oh, I'd really, really like to be in the game. It sounds really cool. So like, okay, I'm not doing 7 players. I'm not that keen on doing 6 players. I'm not doing 7 players. I've done it before. I've done 8 players in a game. I'm never going back there. I think I did 11 at a con. I could handle that. That was fine. That was a con. This is not a continuous long running thing. That, you know, I'm not doing 8 players. It's like not happening. Not doing 7. 6 is my absolute cap. We found out some interesting characters. One of the guys is going to play human sorcerer. He's elven ancestry, and he's taking the for his bloodline. He's taking arcane. So he's going off that his character comes from a merchant family. He's fairly well off, but he doesn't want to get into the family business. So he's running away from the family business. He's trying to make, he's getting like, I have these sorcerer's powers. I can go off and do fantastic and wonderful things. And, he's a bit, looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses. Doesn't realize how hard things are going to get. So I've been talking with the player about possibly, he might have started off with a bit of money, but he's lost almost all of it because he doesn't understand how the real world works yet, and he's starting to come around to that realization now. Like he's getting an inkling of, okay, this is going to be tougher than I thought it would be. One of the other players decided to play human rogue. Asked them all for as some people have suggested, just watch people's videos. I can't remember who it was, but somebody suggested like everyone have a very firm motivation for their character. So some of the players are still brewing up their own, but one of the guys said he wanted to be rich. I was like, okay, that's not really like, why do you want to be rich? What exactly do you want? He said, okay, I want, my character has heard, he was told by his grandfather or someone that of this ancient vault during the heydays, the glory days of Aldor, the golden days. But this vault was lost, this location was lost, and it still has all these treasures in it. And he wants to get it back, not just for all the treasures contained therein. He wants the glory and the fame of reclaiming this. It's like, okay, and I said, okay, I'll do you one better. You that it's not just a load of crap because your grandfather gave you something. He had half the key. The key was broken in half, and this thing is like made of platinum. So it's like, my grandfather was sold this if he didn't honestly believe that this might potentially. Unfortunately, he's just got basically the bit at the end. He doesn't actually have the bit that would unlock it. So it's like, but if I can find the other part of this key, I can unlock it. I didn't necessarily need that bit if I can find where the damn thing is, but he knows because this is here, he knows this thing is real. This thing exists and I want to find it. I don't care how long it takes me, how many years I'm going to find it. So that's the human rogue. One of the other players, we went through a few different things, but he's kind of settling in on a rat folk alchemist. He has been exiled from his clan for various reasons. And he's kind of his main motivation is he wants to create an elixir for eternal life or eternal use, and because I've got a lifespan of about 30 years. Everyone has, like, the humans live longer, the elves live longer, the dwarfs live longer. It's like, it seems to me like almost everyone lives longer than us. Screw that. I'm not foolish. I'm not saying something that means I'm completely immortal and will never die, because you hear the stories of somebody who wishes to be immortal. It's like, I don't want that. That's no, not going to happen. That's not fun. I want, things to be interesting. And if I do decide, I've been around for 1,000 years, life's gotten pretty boring, that he has an out, he has an exit. He's not keen on using that exit, but he has options. One of the other players who might be in it is going playing a human fighter. He's basically decided that his family, he doesn't know how, but a couple of generations back they were nobility, but they lost their noble status. So he wants to find out, firstly, why they lost their noble status, and he wants to regain it. So it's like, okay, that's an interesting angle. He's not sure he's going to be in the game though. But we have some other players as well. Which I just kind of hammered out with some of the guys last night. We have a half-orc cleric of Saranre, using the Crusader archetype. He's going for that because he actually came up with the idea of this guy he's a bandit, he did all these horrible evil things, but he was turned towards good. He's, it's a god of redemption, so he's turned away from that path, and he's trying to struggle with his orcish nature. He's trying to struggle with his temper. He's talking about, could I have a mechanical thing? He's like, look, we don't have to worry about a mechanical thing. If you think your character's situated where he's stressed, where he might freak out, his anger might get the better of him, and he might, start, grab a guy by the scruff of the neck and smash him against the wall, when he really shouldn't. That's role-playing. Role-play your character. Go with it. Just enjoy it. I thought that was a really cool idea. How his character's running around with a scimitar, and he's going, he's going to eventually get in fairly heavy armor and stuff. It's like, okay, that's pretty cool. And one of the other players is playing a Dwarf Ranger. And he wanted something quite odd. He wanted, like, basically an axe on a chain that he could throw people, kind of thing. You wanted quite odd, but he wanted to use it closer. It's like, okay, it's pretty odd. And I think about this for a while. I went through, well, we could use the stats for this or this or that. I don't mind doing it cinematic. It seems a bit odd, but I don't mind doing it cinematic because he's really keen on the idea. It's like, okay, but I'd rather make up rules. I'd rather use rules something there. And I just went through the Ultimate Equipment book to it. I've actually eventually came across something that would do what he kind of wanted to do. He's going to use some rules for a harpoon. I just said it does slashing damage instead of piercing. We're going to use exactly this there. It's an exotic weapon. It's almost always going to be the exotic weapon was what he was getting. But instead of a rope, it's got a chain. So it's like, yeah, he fires it off. It's like, yeah, it's a very unusual weapon, not used even by many dwarfs, but your family uses it. So he has been exiled and utterly disgraced because one of his clan, a noble person, was basically just really scum. He was a scumbag, and he called him out on it, and he challenged him to a duel, and he killed him in the duel. And thinking it probably was accidental. We haven't settled that down, but unfortunately, a lot of people agreed with him that this guy was out of line, but that guy was a noble, and you don't have enough evidence to support your case, and you didn't handle it necessarily the right way because you were quite young at the time. So he's been exiled. He can't return to his home city, and he's got the name like the Exile. So he's got something or other, the Exile. I can't remember his name right now. So he's going for kind of a cool angle. It's like he wants to go back home. He wants to be able to, he wants to be able to return home. But as to say, he's from the main dwarven place. I can't remember what was the name of one of the places in the Five Kingdoms. He wants to go back there, but he can't. And even if the place comes under attack, it does say like, yeah, all dwarfs from all over would, because it's the cultural centre, dwarfs from all over the inner sea would come to defend if it was attacked. But if that situation happens, he'll be horribly shamed because he can't go home. He's not allowed. He is exiled. So we've got kind of a cool angle going on there. And if the guy playing the human fighter doesn't bring his guy, one of the guys was basically, he'd rolled up a character for a game for 4th D&D. He had come up with an idea for a Goblin Shaman. I guess I'd be happy enough to use it as druids, like Goblin Druid. I haven't talked to him a huge amount about it, only briefly, because I'm not sure if he's going to be in the game. I don't want to get his hopes up too much. It sounds pretty cool. Like, I'd be happy enough to have him in if I had space. I'm not running a game with 7 people, as I said. But I've run Pathfinder games before, but I haven't used archetypes that much. But with the guys, the way they're currently going, I think it'll be. I'm getting quite keen on, because even the ranger, he's playing a wild stalker, so he doesn't have an companion. Kind of, really underlined by himself. He doesn't have favorite enemy. He's just constantly watchful about stuff. So it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I should be starting this up in the coming weeks. I just have to, whenever I finish up Black Crusade, I'm going to be starting this shortly after. I do intend to get to the vampire game. I'm really keen on it. But because I've never run a vampire game, and I'm doing it with starting out in Dark Ages and slowly going through this stuff, there's a lot to think about. So I thought, rather than go in, screw this up, because I haven't given myself enough time to think about this, I'm going to be chipping away at that, working in the background. That's what I'm heading towards. So if anybody has any comments about some of those ideas, particularly, any of them really, but particularly the vampire game, I'd be quite happy to hear them. Like, I'm waiting for some feedback on it from some people, which I'm really looking forward to, because I really want to have a good go with it, because I would be so disappointed if I went in, tried to do it, and I screwed it up because I wasn't going in prepared. So, look forward to seeing you again. Goodbye.